Hi, Teresa. Good. I think you're muted.
Yes, I am. How are you?
I'm good. Hanging in there.
Good. Good.
I think I'm going to go ahead and start the webinar because I think
Okay.
people will start coming in.
Great.
So where are you working? Where's your office?
Well, I'm in Bozeman.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
Yeah, I'm in Bozeman. I'm actually at the stadium right now outside because it's beautiful. So it's kind of hard for me to see my screen. I might have to switch around, but so no, my office is still at the fire department.
Oh, okay. Are you going to be moving to the city hall building?
Good question. I'm not sure if I am or not.
Mm-hmm.
Things are still up in the air.
Sounds about right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We have a new employee and it's John Adams. Have you?
Yeah.
So yeah, he's I think he's still down in CPDI because they're kind enough to let him stay there until we can find a spot for him. So
As it always is. Yep.
yeah.
It's just musical chairs, musical offices.
Yes, it is. Boy, today I've had more requests to see John in person, like school groups and university group. I'm like, well, maybe if we planned it for the end of March.
Yes,
I don't know.
I know.
So it looks like Jill is going to send Kristen Patton in her place today because Jill had a conflict.
Okay, I heard you, Heidi. Sorry, I was just having Ben set me up.
Oh, that's okay.
I'm also, just for transparency, not Jill Bonnie, but I'm attending for her today. So if you guys were going to talk trash about me, just know that I'm here.
Hi, Kristen. It's nice to see you.
Never. I just want to test that you guys can hear me with my headphones.
Uh-huh.
Welcome, welcome. We'll just wait a few more moments before we get started. Great to see everyone. We'll just wait another minute or two, give folks an opportunity to get logged in, and then we'll get started. Hi, Ginny.
Hi, Teresa.
Jordan Hansen from the Missoulian has joined us, and then a caller has joined us who I'm not quite sure who that is.
That would be me, Margaret.
It's Margaret. Hey, Margaret, how are you?
Margaret.
Good, guys, good.
Good. And how about Mayor Ingen? And I'm not seeing Alana yet or Jay Gilhouse.
Yeah, they haven't joined yet that I can see.
Okay. Let me get my phone.
John might be finishing up an appointment. We
Oh,
got
here's a
so Eli Parker and Susan Jennifer
Great.
Strino are joining us, which is wonderful.
Looks like there's some Wi-Fi difficulties at the fire department, so Alana might be just a few minutes late. And let me text Jay. Thanks, everyone. We'll get started in just a moment. Thank you for your patience.
Looks like we have Gwen. So Gwen got in.
Welcome, Gwen. Well, I might just give it another minute and then we can get started. Hopefully some other folks can join.
I think John is just running a little late.
Okay. We did have he and Ginny scheduled to do a meeting purpose and overview. We could just delay that until he does get on, unless Ginny, you want to start and hopefully he can get on.
Let's give him a little time to be here.
Okay.
He
Okay.
might have something to add. I can talk about
Yeah.
that if we never
Okay.
see him.
Okay, well, let's get through introductions. We'll at least get started since it's 5 after. So welcome everyone to the Mayor's Downtown Advisory Commission. My name is Teresa Williams and I am the CIT Program Manager located at the Missoula Police Department, and I chair this meeting, and it's so great to see all of you. So let's go around and do introductions. Just tell us who you are, and I'm just gonna use my participant list and go down that and call on you and to give us an introduction. So the first one, let's go to Heidi.
I am Heidi Bakula, and I am basically the organizer behind the agenda and minutes, and I work in the mayor's office.
Thank you, Heidi. We could not stay organized without you. Appreciate all the work that you do. And Dan.
Hi, Dan Cedarberg. I'm a local attorney, and I am on the MDAC committee and also on the Downtown Foundation and the bid boards.
Thank you, Dan. And how about Gwen?
Hi, I'm Gwen Jones, City Council. Glad to be here. And sorry, Heidi, I have to get used to checking different categories of email, but I'm in.
Glad you could make it. And Eli.
Hi, I'm one of the judges in Department 2 in the Municipal Court, Eli Parker.
Thank you for being here. Welcome. And Emily.
Hey, Emily Armstrong. I'm the Houseless Initiative Specialist with Reaching Home with the City of Missoula.
Thank you, Emily. And Ginny.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ginny Merriam. I'm the Communications Director for the city and a founder of this group long time ago. And I can tell a little bit of history later if all the new people would be interested in that.
Yes, thank you. And Jennifer.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Striano, and I'm a municipal court judge for Department 1.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
And let's see, Kristen, not Jill, Kristen.
I'm sitting in for Jill Bonney today. I'm Kristen Patton. I'm the Director of Operations at the Pavarello Center.
And Keithy Worthington.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Keithy Worthington, the Chief Prosecuting Attorney for the City Attorney's Office. And like Ginny, I'm one of the old timers on this committee. And Margaret, it's great to hear from you. We haven't heard from you for a while.
Well, I've been home in my nest for the 2 years of the pandemic, so it's good to be out, even if it's only by phone.
Yes. And how about introducing yourself while we have you?
All right, I'm Margaret Borg. I, along with Keithy and Ginny, go way back to the origins of this group. I am retired at the moment.
Thank you so much. And Sue. Where did Sue go?
I got it.
Oh, there you are.
I'm Sue Wilkins. I'm the Executive Director of Missoula Correctional Services. And I'm with Keithy. Margaret, it's great to hear your voice. I wrote down your phone number so I can make sure I get it in my phone.
All right, then.
Wonderful.
We'll be talking.
Thank you, Sue. And Ryan.
Hi, I'm Ryan Boyd. I am with the Salvation Army of Missoula.
Great. And then Alana.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alana McCreary. I am the CIT data analyst.
Thank you, Alana, for being here. And I'm sure Officer Gilhouse will join us when he can. He just texted and said he's on a call, and he'll be on as soon as that call is over. And I think we also have Jordan Hansen here from the Missoulian.
Sure. Yeah. Hi, guys. Jordan Hansen with Missoulian, and just was going to stop in and say hi today. And yeah, so thank you.
Thank you. Okay, did I miss anyone? I think I got everyone. Okay, wonderful. So now I'm going to turn it over to Ginny and Mayor Ingen to provide an overview of MDAC and the meeting purpose.
Well, thank you, and good
I didn't
afternoon.
have you introduce yourself, Mayor.
That's quite all right, Teresa. I'm John Ingen, Mayor of the City of Missoula. I'm the mayor in the Mayor's Downtown Advisory Committee, and have been for some time, as it turns out. And this committee has been gathering for years now, really established in the hopes of getting more brains and information and talent around the table to solve for what were some challenges in downtown Missoula. Really, probably first term, if I remember right, Jen. And the committee has been instrumental in looking at ordinance, at response, at continuum of care. And really, what was formed largely to address aggressive panhandling issues and a lot of complaints to the mayor's office, lots of calls for service, has morphed into this body where we get together occasionally, really talk about not just the downtown, because I think for our purposes, the notion of what downtown is has expanded, and to identify problems, celebrate successes, provide situational awareness, and whenever possible, vet new notions about how we can better live together in the community and serve one another and take care of our friends and neighbors. So it's been Margaret, for example, has been dedicated to this effort for a very long time, and I'm grateful that even in retirement she continues to be dedicated, as have a number of folks around the table. And I'm really grateful to have our municipal judges join us today. We want your intelligence and participation again as we try to creatively solve for a variety of issues. Ultimately, this is about quality of life writ large, and it's not just about making a pedestrian shopper downtown happy and comfortable at all times. It's about ensuring that the folks who are living on the street in difficult circumstances have access to resources, the respect and dignity that they need and deserve, but are also, in cases where we have remarkable behavioral issues, we're holding those folks to account and keeping people safe. So it's a funky, as everything we do, it's a funky and complex balancing act, and that's why we have folks here from really the continuum of community service, and I think the group has been and continues to be effective, and I appreciate everyone taking your time to participate. And Jen, I'm probably missing a lot.
No, you're not. You must be the mayor. There must be a reason. I'll give just a touch more history. The mayor's correct that when he was in his first year of being mayor, we had a pretty significantly sized group of downtown merchants and business people who came to city council and said, our quality of life issues downtown, much of which revolved around aggressive panhandling, are untenable, and we would like you to do something. And so I started this group with the police department patrol captain at the time, long since retired, in early 2007 or late 2006. Keithy was there, and Dan Cedarberg and Margaret. And one of the first things we did was overhauled the panhandling ordinances and the pedestrian interference ordinances to make them more reasonable, more understandable, more enforceable. We worked for a long time on the Real Change, Not Spare Change campaign in the interest of getting people to not give money directly to panhandlers, but to put the money in. We had 100 and some carafes downtown. And that money went to 3 organizations, Salvation Army, Missoula Food Bank, and the Poverello Center, to help them provide services. Keithy was extremely helpful in revising those ordinances, and eventually we wanted a less law enforcement and a broader purpose, and changed our name to be Mayor's Downtown Advisory Commission. We were instrumental in the art park project, particularly in making sure that we were able to raise money to have the Portland Loo be part of that project. World's most expensive and progressive biffy, as my dad would say. That project turned out to be great. We partnered with the BID in providing some extra benches downtown that worked for everybody. And we've now, in the last few years, morphed into being an advisory body to the mayor. So we've all got eyes and ears on quality of life issues downtown, and we're briefing the mayor when we meet approximately quarterly on those quality of life issues downtown and making suggestions about how we might address them better.
Thanks, Ginny and Mayor. Does anyone have any questions around how MDEC was established, the successes, the history?
And I will tell you that at the time, dealing with these panhandling issues seemed like the biggest, most daunting challenge I would ever face. Not anymore.
No, that is quite true. I mean, it was just absolutely end of the planet kind of problem, and we don't hear much about it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, I don't know what that means, but I think that it means that there is more harmony around that issue.
Mm-hmm. And I appreciate that. Today, later in the agenda, you'll note that we have Emily Armstrong here, and she's going to talk about those homelessness metrics. And also, we had heard in the last meeting, there just weren't enough understanding around what is happening around homelessness and the successes and where we're at. And so we're hoping Emily can help tie in those pieces, and those can be shared, as you guys are all ambassadors of this work, and you can share that with your circles professionally, personally, and help continue this work. So let's move on to public comment. Heidi, is there anyone else joining us other than what you see on our screen? Wondering if there's any public comment today.
Nope, just Jordan Hansen, and that's it.
Okay. So let's move on to our minutes from our last meeting. I hope everyone's had an opportunity to review those. And if so, then I would entertain a motion to approve them.
So moved.
And a second.
A second.
Anyone opposed? Okay, great. Thank you, Heidi, as always, taking those minutes. So next, let's move into the current issues update. So Emily, if you're prepared to kind of give us an overview of what's happening in your world, and any updates on numbers and how the homelessness system is looking, houselessness system is looking.
Thanks so much, Teresa. Again, Emily Armstrong, she, her, and I'm not going to take a ton of time. I know we have a few different agenda items today, but I do have some websites that we've spent a lot of time. Our office has been really focused on trying to strengthen the data that we are collecting and the way we're sharing it publicly. So I'm going to share my screen and go through some of those websites just briefly, and that way you can see the URLs and hopefully get familiar with them yourself and direct other folks to them. And then we'll also just do kind of a brief overview of some of the big initiatives that we're working on right now, and some of the forward progress we've made in recent months in addressing kind of that continuum of resources for folks who are unhoused across Missoula. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can you all see that?
We
Yes, we can.
Fabulous. Okay. So this is a new website that our team created, and I have to give a lot of credit to Sam Hilliard, who's our coordinated entry specialist in the Reaching Home program within the city. She is responsible for collecting and disseminating a lot of this data, and it takes a lot of work. So just lots of credit to Sam for all the digging and collecting that she's doing. But we started this website just a few months ago in an effort, again, to kind of better share data with the public on a snapshot of what houselessness looks like in the system. So the data on this page, the majority of it, and it's outlined in all of these descriptions. So everything I say you can find by reading the descriptions on the page. But the top 4 graphics are just a snapshot on one day. And we'll update this page every 6 months. So there will be a snapshot of one day every 6 months that shows what that day looked like in houselessness in Missoula. So this is from October 14th of 2021. And I'll go back through these graphics, but just to show you, this final graphic is a 6-month snapshot. So this one is April to October of 2021. So what we've included on this page is kind of the questions that we get most in our office. We get questions all the time about what the numbers look like, what the gender breakdowns are, what the race breakdowns are, those kinds of things. So this page was created in response so that we have a place that we can direct folks and that they can get kind of a timely update on what those numbers are looking like, with some good context and explanation about what those numbers then actually mean for the narrative of what's going on with our system. So this one just shows a snapshot of who was unhoused in the Missoula Coordinated Entry System. And I should say all of this data is taken from the Homeless Management Information System. You'll see that referenced up here at the top right here, which is the database that's used across the Missoula Coordinated Entry System by providers who are signed on to that system. And this data is, the coordinated entry system started in 2017. And so our data quality has increased over time. So you'll see there's some data I'll show you later where there's a note in it that it's kind of like a longer term view of the data. And you can see our data has shifted a lot based on quality of data. So older data is a little bit less reliable just because folks were newer to the system. They just didn't necessarily know exactly how to be entering data, and or we didn't have as many providers included. So our more recent months and years have a much stronger data quality, and we're still always continuing to strengthen that piece of this. But so you'll see on October 14th, 2021, we had 60 veterans who were unhoused, 425 individuals who are 25 or older, 45 families, and that is just the head of household, the person who was identified as head of household. So that doesn't include all of the family members in those families. That's how the Homeless Management Information collects family data, is with the head of household. And then 28 individuals under the age of 25. And the total number on that date was 555 individuals and families meeting heads of household. And then we have age. And so this just shows the age distribution of folks in the coordinated entry system on that single day. And what you can see here is it's not a huge variance across age groups, but the highest age group is that 35 to 39. And we do see a quick drop off as folks get older. And that is very much because of the fact that people who are unhoused have a much lower life expectancy. And there are links down here to learn a little bit more about what that means and how that impacts this community. And then we also have race data, and this is something we've been really focused on in our office in the past few months, in the past year, is just trying to address the systemic inequities of our system. We're involved in an equity cohort with 7 or 8 other communities across the country right now that's through the Department of Housing and Urban Development to address inequities within our system, to basically look into our system and find out where those inequities are happening and shift our structures and our policies to better serve all of the people in our neighborhoods, especially those who are Black, Brown, and Indigenous. And you'll see that very clearly represented. Again, this is just on one day, so the data could look different a different day, but it's a pretty good snapshot and mirrors what we see on more longitudinal data looks, with that 16% of folks within the coordinated entry system are Native American or Alaskan, versus if you look at 29 census data of Missoula, you see 1.6%. So a pretty significant disparity there. We also see that with our Black neighbors and our Hispanic and Latinx neighbors. So we're just trying to be really conscious of these data points that we're seeing and figuring out how do we shift our system so that this unhoused data better matches the census data of our community. And then gender breakdown, and this mirrors what's seen nationally for the most part, as does most of the data that I've shared so far, the data on race as well and age, that more men experience houselessness than women. And then we do also just want to note that trans folks, LGBTQIA2S+ folks are often less likely to report their gender identity. And so therefore, it looks like a very low percentage, but we know that the folks in that community are often experiencing disproportionately high rates of houselessness, and just want to be aware of that as we're consuming this kind of data and recognizing there's probably underreport involved here. And then finally, housing destinations. This is the happy slide that gets to show all the folks who have been housed. And again, this is just in a 6-month period. I pulled a quick report at the end of 2021 and looked at the full year, and it was closer to 130, 140 total who were achieved a secure permanent housing situation. So those are the big wins that we celebrate in our system. And you can see here kind of where folks were going to with those housing placements. So this is just our newest data page. I really encourage you to dig into this, check back at it every 6 months. Please share it with your networks. We're trying really hard to better share this data more publicly, and are excited to be able to do that with the community and answer some of those questions before they come to us. So the next thing I wanted to show you is this page. So this is part of the Missoula Organization of Realtors housing report. It's the social data. So that's how you would get to it. You'd go to the Missoula Organization of Realtors page, go to housing report, and click social data. And there's a lot of data in here, but the slides that I will show you, you can toggle back from the slides down here, are 14 and 15. And so those are slides that we've worked with Missoula Organization of Realtors to get, again, that homeless management information system data integrated. And again, big shout out to Sam. She's been doing a ton of the work to make this happen. And this will be updated more on a monthly basis. And it shows more of that longitudinal look. So you can see this starts in July of 2019 and goes until basically present. This is December of 2021. And so what we're looking at on this slide is folks who are enrolled in the homeless management information system, which you'll often see referenced as HMIS, H-M-I-S. And so here you're looking at total unhoused, which is this top line, and then folks who identify as veterans. And the dotted lines that you see here are just show the trend. So the solid line shows the actual numbers, and if you click on it, the number, or hover over it, the number shows up. And then the dotted line shows just the trend over time. And then in the bottom graph, you're seeing total unhoused, again, is that green line. And then the purple line is long-term homeless. So folks who have been unhoused continuously for the last year or unhoused 4 times in the last 3 years. And then the bottom purple line is chronically homeless. So folks who also have a disabling condition of some kind. And this is all explained over in the narrative. And then the next slide shows a number of people who are entered each month into the homeless management information system. So this is basically new clients in that system. And again, this is one of those slides that we want to be really aware because it's longitudinal and it starts back in, what's the first date? It's 2018, July 2017, so the beginning of the coordinated entry system, that the data over here is, and this is included in the narrative, is definitely impacted by getting familiar with the system, learning how to enter data, learning what kind of data to enter, and integrating more and more shelters and providers into our data entry. And then also looking at 2020 and seeing those lower numbers and just thinking about historical factors. This is when COVID was hitting us pretty hard. And so just recognizing how that may have impacted provider capacity for entering data as robustly as they would when they weren't also managing a pandemic. So just always good to be kind of critical as we're looking at all this data, but it does give us a helpful snapshot, especially some of this longitudinal stuff, to see kind of what's happening over time. And then the last thing I'll show you is a lot of folks reference the point in time count as a data source. And in previous years, before we had the coordinated entry system, that was one of the main data sources, or the main data source really, to assess our numbers and the kind of narrative and experiences of the folks that we were surveying. The point in time count is also challenging, given that it's, again, kind of more of that snapshot model. It's on one single night every year, and it happens to be in the middle of winter in Montana. So that alone kind of impacts the numbers that we're getting and how accurate they may be. And then there are a lot of other factors that make it challenging to really fully survey the whole community. And so now that we have a really robust coordinated entry system, we're starting to rely on that data source a bit more, which is why we've kind of built these websites and are trying to make that more public. But the point in time count is another data source. It's another one that you just want to consume kind of critically and make sure you're taking into context when you're looking at it. The other side of the point in time count is that state data. So it is valuable to be able to see what's going on in other communities. So this is the 2020 data. And the 2021 data was never put into dashboards like this. That's why I'm pulling up 2020, because it was so impacted by COVID. Not all communities did a full survey, some did observational counts, and so the data just wasn't consistent enough for the state to create any sort of representative displays. We did get our own data that we just have kind of in an Excel sheet that's fairly raw, but this 2020 data is another way to kind of just get a snapshot of the state. And so when you're looking at it, you can select multiple communities, you can select just one, so we would look probably just at Missoula's. And the point in time count is great because it has, it looks at a lot of different questions. So there's data on race and ethnicity and location. And you can see up here is how you toggle between the pages, and you can see kind of a variety of questions that are asked. But again, just recognizing that we now have a stronger data source, and so this should be consumed just with a critical eye, recognizing that it's probably not fully representative of everyone who is unhoused in all situations across Missoula. This is just kind of a snapshot of what some of the dashboards look like. I will also add, this is kind of just a side caveat, that sometimes these dashboards don't actually show all the data. So if you really are looking at point in time count data to make critical decisions or anything, you would always want to go and export into a CSV or some sort of Excel sheet, because oftentimes when you export it, all of a sudden there's new rows that show up that aren't showing up on the dashboards here. So just another thing to be aware of when you're looking at that data. So before I just go over just a quick overview, I said I was going to be fast and I'm already taking a long time. Does anyone have data questions related to any of those sites?
Emily, that was fantastic. And I think it's a really great resource. And I'm wondering if, just for point of reference and for Heidi to capture in the notes, could you put those links in the chat?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll do that once I'm done.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So yeah, do folks have any questions for Emily regarding the data?
Yeah, Emily, so the dashboards are new to me. They're awesome. Thank you. One of the things that I'm curious about, because we have kind of from the days when we created and ratified the Reaching Home plan. How is that point in time, again, with all the qualifications you offer, how has that point in time count changed over the years?
The survey itself, is that what you're asking?
The numbers, right?
Oh, the numbers. Yes, yeah. It's hard to tell looking at the recent years because it has been so impacted by COVID. I mean, if that was the 2020 data, which showed 468, if you saw really quickly the number that showed up there, which we know is a little bit low for that year. Last year, we know it was very off. I think our number was about 365. I don't have the Excel sheet in front of me, but we know that in reality, it was probably closer to about 550. And that number that we saw on the data website on the city site showed 558 in October of last year. So we know that a mid 300s number would be low. And this year, I don't have the data yet. It was done actually through a state web tool, so I actually can't even look at raw data yet. But based on anecdotally what I'm pulling together, I think we'll also probably be in maybe the high 300s. And we know that right now we're closer to the high 500s. So I think it's in the past has mirrored more similarly our actual numbers. It hasn't exactly been right ever, I don't think, but it's mirrored more closely. And then in recent years, we've definitely seen a pretty significant drop in those numbers, but I think it's largely due to COVID and our ability to actually survey really well and connect with folks in the same way we had in the past.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question?
It did, and for some reason I want to say we've had point in time counts of like in the 900s, but am I imagining that?
I actually, I don't have the longitudinal data pulled up in front of me, and I would be curious if Teresa has any sort of historical memory of numbers. Not to put you on the spot. It's okay if you don't.
What was the last number, did you say, Mayor?
For some reason I remember numbers in the 900s, Teresa, but again, I have a lot of numbers in my head and limited capacity.
It sounds high to me, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think that is high. And I think that was, and also over time, HUD has changed the definition of homelessness.
Yes.
And so that has impacted it. And similar to what Emily was saying, the number changes seasonally as well. In winter, you're going to probably count less people than you will in the summer because, it's warmer out, that sort of thing. So there are a lot of factors. And also, as Emily was pointing out, even, COVID impacted things, but also it depends if there's a winter storm that day and are people tuckered in? Are they going to come out? And people aren't lining up to say, count me. They're surviving and they're trying to do their best to get by. So I think that, as Emily said, and the coordinated entry system, that data is going to be much more reliable than an annual point in time count.
That's great. Thank you.
Jordan,
looks
did you
like
have?
two folks have their hands up, Ginny and Jordan Hansen?
Jenny, if you want to go first, by all means.
I just wanted to add that the other question we get besides how many people are homeless is what is local government doing about it? And I encourage you all to visit our Engage Missoula, which is a website that is accessed off of our city website. And we have one page that is about all things shelter. And so you can go there and read about what we are doing. Hush. The authorized camping site, the temporary safe out.
Is it me or did she freeze?
I think she froze. Those are also the projects I was going to overview real quick.
Perfect.
So I'll give a quick summary.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, why don't you do that? And then Jordan, then could we entertain your question? Would that be all right?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Okay, go ahead, Emily.
Awesome. I will actually try to be fast this time. So as Jenny said, you can get a little bit more information on the Engage Missoula website, and we can drop that in the chat as well. But there are quite a few big projects that city and county have been working on, many together over the past few months and the past year to continue to build that continuum of resources that we offer for folks in our community in partnership with all of our provider partners who are doing endless amounts of other projects in addition to the large ones that city and county are leading out on. So that does include the authorized camping site, which we opened on January 18th. So it's been open a little less than a month. And that's a very low barrier camping site, basically, for folks who would typically be camping maybe on a sidewalk somewhere and now have a sanctioned place to do so safely, and provides basic hygiene services, bathrooms, warming services. We have outreach teams who visit regularly. We have a community care team that includes a nurse that's able to provide basic medical care and housing support. So trying to keep it low barrier and also provide services as an option if anyone does choose to engage with those services. So that's one of the projects. The temporary safe outdoor space opened in December of 2020. So it's been open a little over a year. And that was one of our first kind of forays into let's just try this crazy thing and see what happens. And it's been very successful and has given us a lot of new knowledge to build off of and understand what really works for folks in our community. So that's a 20 site space. that's down by Buckhouse Bridge and is really high service environment. Really is meant to work with folks who want to move forward in their progress towards a housing solution, and provides a lot of hands-on casework support. A lot of providers go out on a regular basis and meet with clients, and we bring in a lot of programming, and it's a really great partnership with Hope Rescue Mission, who operates the site, and United Way and the county and ourselves, and then all the other partners who spend time visiting and providing services to the folks staying there. And then, of course, we have the Emergency Winter Shelter, which is in its second year at the Johnson Street Community Center. And that is our site that is open November until March or April, depending on what the weather needs are and how long our winter lasts. That's meant to really just provide another really basic shelter space for folks who need a safe space to be indoors. And it's a 24/7 shelter, which was new to us last year for the Emergency Winter Shelter because of the pandemic and the need to have warming spaces. It's folks couldn't go into coffee shops or community centers and such as they might have in previous years. So we continue to explore what the future of Emergency Winter Shelter is. That one, we hope to be able to shift that project in the future years, and are still exploring what the future looks like. And then we are, the 10-year plan, which is the name of our program, Reaching Home, ends in 2022. So it's at its 10-year lifespan. And so we're looking at doing an evaluation of that 10-year plan and all of the goals and benchmarks that were included, and really assessing where our successes have been, where we still have room for improvement, what gaps exist, and how the landscape looks different now than it did when that plan was created, and how we need to adapt in our processes and our programs moving forward. And then the last thing, this isn't the last thing, I have one more thing. We are looking at joining a program called Built for Zero, which is a program of an organization called Community Solutions. And we'll hopefully be joining that program in the spring, and there will probably be much more information once we are a little bit more ready to announce. But that's a program that's meant to work with communities, and does work with communities across the country, to reach functional zero with subpopulations of folks who are unhoused. And so we're really excited. They have a lot of really tangible resources and tools and coaching models, and just they have a lot that can really build out and make our coordinated entry system more robust and really strengthen all of our processes. So we're excited for what that means for our ability to continue to serve and better serve the folks that we work with across Missoula. And then the Missoula Coordinated Entry System is just the other piece that you can't not name anytime you're talking about houselessness. And again, Sam Hilliard is our coordinated entry specialist and does a fabulous job managing that program and ensuring that all of our providers are well connected and well trained. We have nearly 40 or maybe over 40 different providers signed on to the coordinated entry system at this point. And those are folks who meet regularly and talk about individuals who are unhoused in Missoula by name every week, and really just do everything we can to care coordinate around each of those folks. And that's where the data comes from. And yeah, that's really where the magic happens, is in the coordinated entry system. So I'm going to stop talking now.
And I'm
Emily.
sorry, Emily, did you mention authorized campsite?
Yes, I did. The first
Okay.
one was authorized.
Sorry,
camping
I
site,
missed
yes.
it. Thank you.
No worries. Yeah, all good.
Yes, thank you so much, Emily. And let's go to Jordan and then Keithy.
Sure. And I want to preface this by saying if there's a more appropriate or better time to get this question answered, that's totally fine. More or less, I'm just kind of curious, specifically in regards to the data, are there things that us, at the Missoulian or just in the media in general can do a little bit better job of being able to articulate that data? I know that's kind of a broad question. That's kind of why I preface it, because I obviously don't want to hold the meeting, but I am generally curious if there's things that we can do to improve and better articulate and disseminate some of this information.
That's a great question, Jordan. Thanks for asking it. Yeah, I think I want to ruminate on that a little bit more to give you a more intentional answer, if that's okay.
100%. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'll piggyback though, Jordan, and just say less about data, but often calls to my office and referrals I make to Emily and our team are from folks who want us to do something, and I think are under the impression that we're not. Our programming here is so robust and so creative. And I really think it's making a difference. And I think that somehow gets lost in the ether. We're guilty of inside baseball here, so we all know it. And sometimes, we're so engaged in programming that it's hard to communicate what we're doing. So I'm really grateful to Emily for providing, these tools and all the great work that Jenny and all of our staff do. But it's a pretty remarkable story, and we are doing things that other communities aren't in a remarkably coordinated way. Anytime you want to write a story about any of that, let us know.
Thank you. And how about Keithy? You had your hand up.
I did, thank you. And you might have answered this. It's been a long time since I looked at some of this data, but does this data track some of the root causes of homelessness? I know that domestic violence can result loss of job for those individuals who are low income. Medical event can often result in loss of housing. And so I'm just curious if there's any ability to track sort of those root causes to kind of identify some gaps other than just them being homeless.
That's a great question. That it's pretty challenging for us to pull data that we're confident about on those from our system. We can pull some data on it, but it's not necessarily wholly comprehensive. Not everyone shares that information, and yeah, it's challenging for us to report really hard data on that. But that to me is where kind of that qualitative data comes in, more of that storytelling component. And we are trying to tune into that more and really bring lived experts into the conversation more in ways that are safe and dignified and equitable. So that contextualized understanding is more publicly known, kind of trying to debunk some of those stigmas that are so prevalent out there that just aren't grounded in any sort of reality. So yeah, it's a great question. I think from a quantitative standpoint, it's challenging to track and share some of that data. But yeah, maybe we'll have some conversations internally about how we might be able to, but that's definitely where the qualitative storytelling, some of that more anecdotal data can pair nicely.
And I recognize it's very subjective. What I'm doing now, we cite a lot of individuals that have mental health or substance abuse issues, and that often is what drives them to be homeless. And I just didn't know if I understand it's very difficult, if there was any way to try and look at tracking that, but thank you.
Yeah. And some of those things, like we do have data to understand how many folks deal with some sort of a substance use condition, or, some of those from that angle, we have data to track some of that, but not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily capture all the reasons that someone might become unhoused.
And I remember that one of the point in time questions is, why did you become homeless? And the top two that I remember, domestic violence situation and couldn't afford rent. So those are the top two reported. And then they also do track last zip code of permanent address. And that also dispels the myth that we're drawing in all these folks from other communities. And we're able to say, not actually, they're actually our fellow neighbors here in Missoula and neighboring communities in Montana. So there are some of those pieces. In the sake of time, I know we want to hear from Officer Gilhouse, who's able to join us. So I'm wondering, Ginny and Dan, rock, paper, scissors? Or can you keep it brief?
Hey, no, your question about where people are coming from, you fill that in, and I think just as a suggestion, that needs to be made known, because it's a question I often get.
Yeah, that one. And we consistently see from the data that we do collect on that around 70%, usually a little bit over 70% of folks are from somewhere in Montana, if not Missoula itself. So that's a consistent data point that kind of debunks that myth, but it's challenging because that is not a required question. So again, the data on that isn't as, it's not as, the quality of it isn't super high, but the data that we do have shows that the majority of our folks are coming from nearby communities or our community itself.
Thank you. And Ginny, you want to sum us up and then we'll move on to Alana briefly and then Gilhouse?
I can talk with Jordan more about this sort of offline, but I think a couple of things that go missing in all news coverage of people living without shelter are The first is, it is a national problem. I think a lot of people who do have places to live in Missoula tend to focus just on Missoula and, oh my goodness, what, we have this terrible problem that nobody else has. And I think it's important to put our challenge in the context of what is going on nationally. The other thing we get is, so you're working on homelessness, you say you are, but I still see homeless people. And the answer to that is what I have learned from Teresa and also from Emily is our goal is to make homelessness rare, brief, and one time only. And people will always become homeless in Missoula and other cities. That doesn't mean that you are never going to see a homeless person. We hope to provide the infrastructure that helps people to be housed very quickly when they do lose their homes. So that's another sort of missing piece. I hear a lot about, you haven't ended homelessness yet. You know, we also haven't ended homicide and potholes and buildings catching on fire, but we mitigate those things every day so that we can all live in a community.
There are a lot of other factors that impact houselessness, the lack of affordable healthcare, childhood trauma, all of these other factors. Houselessness doesn't live on its own, and you can't solve it by just trying to address that one thing. It has to be solved in a contextual way.
Wonderful. I'm so glad you could be here today, Emily, and providing all this information and the links. So thank you. Thank you, and all the work that your office is doing with the community. I'm going to have Alana just provide a brief update around this evaluation. And Alana, can you just also give some context to what your position is? And then Jay, you're going to wrap us up. Sound good?
Yes, absolutely. So my position is within the crisis intervention team. And as data analyst, I am mostly working on kind of setting up and collecting our data processes, and then also working on our program evaluation that's hopefully going to be starting sometime in April. So I am mostly here today to introduce you all to the Plus Delta evaluation tool that I developed for this commission. So if any of you are not already familiar with the Plus Delta, this evaluation tool is really quick and simple. It asks participants 2 questions: what's working well in this meeting space and how can we improve? So Heidi, I think, sent a link out to everyone to that form. So if you have any feedback as to things that you think could be improved about this meeting, or things that you really love and don't want to see go, that's a great place to do it. I think that covers it all, unless there's anything else, Teresa.
I think that's all. Thank you so much, Alana. And just a brief update. So the crisis intervention team, we're the team that is working on changing the way that we respond to crises in our community, behavioral health crises. And we also do training for law enforcement and first responders. And Alana is taking a deep dive into that data and helping us evaluate the program. And because I'm a part of this meeting, she's a part of this meeting, we also want to evaluate how this meeting is going for everyone. Since this is quarterly, we heard a lot about the history as well. And so we just want to hear from you guys and see how we can continue to improve. With that, Jay Gilhouse, welcome. How are things going?
Thank you. Sorry, I missed half the meeting today. I was pulled away on a call for service. I guess that kind of happens with police work, but I do apologize for missing the first half. My position, I am the downtown designated police officer, internally known as the BID officer, the Business Improvement District officer. There was a contract for 2 officers. We spoke about this a little bit last meeting. The other officer, Randy, took another position as a school resource officer. And since that point, I've been operating as the only downtown designated police officer in the city of Missoula. I got the chance to talk to the chief about that. There is an intent for the chief to open up a second position here in the next couple of weeks is what they're hoping, but the chief is also battling some employment struggles on patrol with lower numbers. So when the second position becomes available, it might be some time, but that is something that the chief has recognized that he wants to fill as soon as logistically possible for him. That'll be nice once that happens to have another officer in the downtown area fixing these things. One of the things I've been doing in my position is I've been working with two of Teresa's practicum students. They're students going for their master's in social work, and I have gotten the opportunity to utilize them
We lost you.
Sorry
Now you're
about
back.
that. My phone froze. I'm back.
Okay.
So working with the RAP students in the RAP program has been a very valuable tool for me. We've had a lot of success teaming them up with certain individuals to really provide them with more intensive level of social work to try to solve community issues, get that person into a better place. It's been amazing being able to work with the RAP students and their program. And then as far as police work goes downtown, there's not a lot that's been going on in terms of major incidents. I've been able to focus most of my time on building rapport, building these bridges between social work world, working very closely with Teresa and CIT, and focusing on trying to clean things up that way for the long-term solution. And I think the only other thing I wanted to say was I got to meet with Linda McCarthy shortly before the meeting, and she sent her apologies that she was unable to make it today. So
Thanks, Jay. Any questions for Officer Gilhouse? I rushed everybody along and we've got 5 minutes. So any questions or comments or any other updates downtown that we need to know about? Keithy.
I just had a quick question because there had been a question in our office. Are those CIT numbers available? The numbers for how many responses, are those available to the public anywhere?
So are you talking about CIT as the program and CIT officer response, or are you talking about the mobile support team, clinician,
Sorry.
and EMT?
Yes,
So
sorry,
confusing.
the mobile
MST.
support team that gets called out if there's a mental health issue versus police. Am I using
Yes.
the term? Sorry.
Yes, no, it comes up a lot. There's lots of confusion. I wonder if, I know they released a report recently.
Okay.
Alana, do you recall the dates of the reporting period that they looked at? I thought it was a 6-month period, perhaps.
That sounds about right. Maybe between 6 and 9 months. But I think for updated numbers, you could try John Petroff of the fire department. I know that he pulls reports pretty frequently, so he might be able to give you those.
Are those public anywhere?
Yeah, the report is, and we can track that down, and I can have Heidi send that out. And, and if you guys are interested, we could also get another update at our next quarterly meeting in April, if that's of interest.
I was just in a meeting with AC Davis today, and forgive me, I don't recall whether it's calendar year, but or history program. I want to say 1,300 calls, 1,300 responses.
Not surprising.
Yes, they're very busy. And they're also onboarding additional staff so they can get a third van, a third unit. So they're definitely working on expanding the program, which is great. Oh, perfect.
Thanks, Alana.
Alana, wonderful. Thank you. Any other questions, comments, or updates on the downtown area that we can discuss in the next 3 minutes? Okay, hearing none. It's great to see all of you. Thank you so much for being here today. Welcome to our new members.